the family party, my son Michael whispered something in my daughter-in-law Jessica's ear. Something I couldn't hear. Something that made her nod slowly, looking toward the stairs. And then, without anyone else noticing, she went up. She disappeared onto the second floor of my house while everyone else laughed downstairs. 40 minutes later, when she came down, she was paler than the tablecloth. Her hands were shaking. She approached Michael and whispered, "Honey, there's something up there you have to see. I shouldn't have thrown that party. I know that now. But at that moment, I just wanted to bring the family together. I wanted everyone under my roof one more time. I wanted to feel like I still had control over something, over someone. Because at 66 years old, I, Eleanor Vance, the only thing I had left was that big house and the memory of what was once my perfect family. Or at least, what I believed was perfect. That Saturday afternoon, the house smelled of cinnamon and roast beef. I had set the best wine glasses on the dining room table, the linen napkins I inherited from my mother, the silverware I only used on special occasions. Everything had to be perfect. Because Michael was coming, my son, my pride. The only one who was always by my side. The only one who never disappointed me. He and Jessica would arrive on time, as always, and I would be ready to receive them with open arms and a smile that hid the exhaustion of an entire life spent pretending everything was fine. They arrived at 6 o'clock in the evening. Michael brought a bottle of expensive wine. Jessica, a bouquet of white flowers. They hugged me at the door. I smelled her perfume. Something sweet. Something that irritated me for no reason. Because Jessica was always kind to me. Too kind. One of those people who smiles even when they don't feel like it. And I never trusted easy smiles. But Michael loved her. And that was enough. Or so I told myself every time I saw her walk into my house, as if she owned the place. Dinner went on without a hitch. We talked about trivial things. The weather. Michael's work. The neighbors. About everything and nothing. I served the wine. They praised the food. Everything was polite. Everything was civilized. Until Michael leaned toward Jessica and whispered something. I was serving dessert. My hand stopped. I saw her nod. I saw her get up from the table with a silly excuse. "I'm going to the restroom," she said. But she didn't go to the downstairs bathroom. She went up the stairs. And I knew, in that instant, that something was not right. I tried to focus on the conversation. Michael was talking about a new project at his job. Something about expansion. Numbers. Contracts. I nodded without really listening. My ears were tuned to Jessica's footsteps on the second floor. I heard her walk down the hall. I heard her stop in front of a door. My door. My bedroom door. And then, silence. A long silence. Too long. Michael kept talking. Smiling. As if nothing was wrong. As if his wife wasn't rummaging through my room at that very moment. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Then 30. I could no longer pretend everything was fine. I got up from the table with the excuse of getting more coffee. Michael didn't even look at me. He was checking his phone. I went up the stairs slowly. My heart was pounding in my ears. I reached the second-floor hallway and saw my bedroom door ajar. I got closer. I heard a sound, like someone moving furniture, or opening drawers. I stood there, paralyzed. Part of me wanted to go in and demand an explanation, but another part, the cowardly part that had always lived inside me, stopped me, because deep down, I knew what Jessica was looking for, and I knew that if she found it, everything would collapse. I went back downstairs before she saw me. I returned to the table. Michael was still on his phone. I poured him more wine. He smiled. "Thanks, Mom." That word, Mom, used to fill me with pride. Now it just sounded hollow, because I had not been a good mother. Not really. I had been selective. I had chosen who to love and who to forget. And now, 40 years later, that choice was about to come to light. Jessica came down 43 minutes after she had gone up. I know because I stared at the wall clock obsessively that entire time. When she appeared on the stairs, her face had changed. She was no longer the kind, smiling woman who had arrived at my house. She was someone else. Someone who had seen something she shouldn't have. Something that had broken her in half. Her eyes were red, not from crying, from shock, from disbelief. She approached Michael and leaned toward him. I watched her from my chair. I saw how her lips moved slowly. I saw Michael's brow furrow. I saw him put his wine glass down on the table with too much force. And then he looked at me. He looked at me in a way he never had before. As if I were a stranger. As if he had just discovered that the woman who gave him life was a monster. "Mom," he said, his voice trembling, "we need to talk." I wanted to get up. I wanted to run. I wanted to disappear. But my legs wouldn't respond. I stayed seated, my hands in my lap, feeling the world I had built with lies begin to crumble. And all because Jessica had gone up to my room. All because my son had asked her to look for something. Something I thought I had hidden forever. Michael got up from the table. Jessica followed him. I remained seated, motionless, my hands gripping the linen napkin until my knuckles turned white. "Mom, come upstairs with us," he said. It wasn't a request. It was an order. And for the first time in my life, my son spoke to me as if I were the one who had to obey. I stood up, my legs trembling. We went up the stairs in silence. A heavy silence. The kind of silence that precedes storms. Confessions. Irreparable breaks. We entered my bedroom. The bed was untouched. The ivory-colored comforter perfectly smooth. But the closet was open. Completely open. And on the floor, in front of the closet, was a metal box. An old box. Rusty. A box I had hidden behind the winter coats 40 years ago. A box no one was ever supposed to find. Jessica was standing by the window, her arms crossed, not looking at me. Michael was holding something in his hands, a yellowish envelope, full of letters. Letters I never answered, letters I never wanted to read. "What is this, Mom?" Michael asked. His voice sounded broken. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The words were stuck in my throat like stones. He opened one of the letters. He began to read aloud. "Dear Mom, I turned 17 today. No one here remembers. No one brought me a cake. Will you come visit me soon? I miss you, Arthur." Michael stopped reading. He looked at me with eyes full of something I couldn't decipher. Rage, disappointment, horror. Maybe all of it combined. "Arthur," he repeated, as if tasting the name in his mouth for the first time. "Who is Arthur, Mom?" I closed my eyes. I felt the walls of the room closing in on me, the air turning thick, the past I had so carefully buried rising from its grave to devour me. "Your brother," I whispered finally. "Arthur is your brother." The silence that followed was deafening. Michael dropped the letters to the floor. Jessica turned to me with an expression of absolute disbelief. "Brother?" Michael repeated. "I don't have a brother. You always told me I was an only child." "Always." I nodded slowly. "I know. I lied to you." The words came out of my mouth like knives. Sharp. Final. I lied because it was easier that way. Because Arthur wasn't like you. Because he was sick. "Sick?" Jessica asked from the window. Her voice was cold. Distant. What kind of sickness makes a mother erase her son from the family history? I turned to her. For the first time in years, I felt rage. Real rage. "You don't know anything," I snapped. "You don't know what it was like living with him. How hard it was. The screaming, the meltdowns, the sleepless nights. Your father and I did the best we could. We sent him to a place where they could take care of him, where he would be safe." Michael picked up another letter from the floor. "Dear Mom, it's been 5 years since they brought me here. Why don't you write? Did I do something wrong? Please write back. I promise I'll be good if you let me come home." Michael's voice cracked as he read the last words. 5 years. Mom. 5 years waiting for an answer from you. A single letter. A visit. Something. He dropped the letter. "How old was he when you sent him to that place?" 16, I answered quietly. He was 16. Michael recoiled as if I had slapped him. 16, he repeated. "A kid. You sent a kid to an institution and never went back for him." I shook my head. He wasn't a kid. He was dangerous. He had episodes. He broke things. He tried to hurt himself once. Your father and I didn't know what to do. The doctors said it was for the best, that he needed specialized care. Jessica approached the closet. She pulled more papers from the box. Medical certificates, psychiatric reports, photographs. It says here Arthur had depression, she read aloud, and severe anxiety. Nothing about being dangerous, nothing about trying to hurt himself. She looked at me harshly. It just says here he was a teenager with emotional problems, a teenager who needed therapy and family support, not imprisonment. I wanted to snatch the papers from her. I wanted to scream that she didn't understand, that she hadn't been there. But I had no strength. Michael sat on the edge of my bed. He had his head in his hands. Where is he now? He asked without looking at me. Where is Arthur? I swallowed hard. I don't know. It was the truth, and it was a lie. I knew where he had been committed. I knew the name of the institution, but I never asked about him again. I never wanted to know, because it was easier to forget than to face what I had done. That's a lie, Jessica said, holding up another paper. Here's the address. St. Jude's Mental Health Center. On the outskirts of the city, barely 20 miles from here. Michael looked up. His eyes were red. 20 miles, he muttered. He was 20 miles away from us all this time, and you never told me anything. You never gave me the chance to know my brother. I felt tears begin to well up. Tears of guilt, of shame, of fear. It was for your own good, I whispered. I wanted you to have a normal life, without complications, without burdens. Arthur was a burden, and I didn't want you to carry that. A burden, Michael repeated, standing up. You're talking about a person. Your son, my brother, and you called him a burden. He approached me. I could see the disappointment in his face. The betrayal. What else did you lie to me about, Mom? What else did you hide in that closet? I backed away. Nothing. There's nothing else. I just wanted to protect you. He shook his head. You didn't protect me. You lied to me. And the worst part is, you kept lying for 40 years. 40 years, Mom. Jessica closed the box carefully. She held it in her arms as if it were something sacred. We're going to that place, she said, looking at Michael. First thing tomorrow. We're going to find Arthur. Michael nodded. He turned to me one last time. I don't want you to come with us. I don't want to see you until I understand what really happened, who you really are. And with that, they left my room. I heard them go down the stairs. I heard the front door close. And then, silence. I was left alone in that room full of ghosts. Surrounded by letters I never answered. By memories I tried to bury. Alone with the truth that had come to light. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the open box on the floor. The letters were scattered like the bones of a corpse that never received a proper burial. The moonlight came through the window, making the words written in faded ink shine like reprimands, like silent accusations. I stood up, trembling, and picked up one of the letters. The handwriting was childish, uneven. Mom, I drew a tree in therapy today. The doctor says I draw well. Would you like to see it? I can save it for when you come. I closed my eyes. Arthur was 17 when he wrote that. 17. And I never went to see him. I never wanted to see his drawings. I never wanted to know if he was okay or not. I simply erased him from my life as if he had never existed. I went down to the kitchen as the sun began to peek over the horizon. I made coffee. My hands were shaking so much I spilled half of it on the counter. The house was too quiet, too big, too empty. It had always been empty. But now that emptiness had a name, it had a face. Arthur, my forgotten son, the one I sacrificed so Michael could have a perfect life. So I could pretend to be an exemplary mother, a devoted wife, a respectable woman. All lies. All built on the abandonment of a child who only needed love. The phone rang at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was Michael. He didn't say hello. He didn't ask how I was. He got straight to the point. We're on our way to St. Jude's Center, Jessica and I. We need to know if Arthur is still there. If he's still alive. His voice sounded hollow, distant, as if speaking from the bottom of a well. Michael, I I tried to say something. Anything. But he cut me off. I don't want to hear it right now, Mom. I just called so you know I'm not letting this go. I'm going to find my brother, with or without your help. And he hung up. The dial tone echoed in my ear like a death sentence. I stood in the middle of the kitchen, holding the phone like an idiot. Part of me wanted to call him back, to beg him not to go, to tell him it was better to leave the past where it was, buried, forgotten. But the other part, the part that had been carrying this guilt for 40 years, knew it was too late, the truth was out, and there was no way to put it back in that rusty box. There was no way to undo what I had done. I spent the next few hours walking through the house like a ghost, up and down the stairs without purpose, entering rooms I hadn't used in years, the one that was Michael's room when he was a boy, the guest room that never hosted anyone, and then, at the end of the hall, the door I always kept closed. Arthur's room. I hadn't gone in there in 40 years, not even to clean it. I simply closed the door the day they took him away and never opened it again. But now, with my hands sweating and my heart beating like a war drum, I turned the knob. The door opened with a creak. The air that came out smelled musty, of frozen time, of stolen childhood. The olive green curtains were drawn. The twin bed was still made with the same quilt Arthur used. On the walls, faded posters of bands that no longer existed. On the desk, stacked notebooks, pencils in a cup, a small lamp covered in dust. Everything exactly as he left it, as if waiting for him to come back at any moment. But I knew he would never come back, because I never went to get him. I sat on his bed. The mattress groaned under my weight. I took one of the notebooks from the desk. I opened it. It was full of drawings, trees, houses, smiling people. And on every page, in the top right corner, a date. The dates ranged from when he was 12 until he was 15. After that, the pages were blank. Because at 16, we sent him to that place. And he stopped drawing. He stopped dreaming. He stopped being the boy he once was. And all because of me. Because I chose comfort over love. Appearance over truth. Michael over Arthur. The phone rang again. This time it was an unknown number. I answered, my heart in my throat. Mrs. Eleanor Vance? A male voice asked. For mail. Dry. Yes, I barely replied. This is Investigator John Bridges. Your son Michael hired me to locate information on an Arthur Vance. I have an update. I felt the world tilt. What? What kind of update? There was a pause. Arthur Vance is still alive. He is a resident at the St. Jude's Center. He is 62 years old. He never left. He never had visitors, except for your son and daughter-in-law 2 hours ago. The tears began to roll down my cheeks uncontrollably. Is he okay? I asked in a broken voice. Physically, he is stable. Mentally. Well, that's something your son will want to discuss with you personally. The investigator paused again. Mrs. Vance, did you know that Arthur has been trying to contact you all these years? There are records of phone calls that were never answered, letters that were returned. I knew all that. I couldn't respond. I just hung up. I dropped the phone to the floor. And for the first time in 40 years, I cried. Truly cried. Without pretense. Without masks. I cried for the son I abandoned. For the letters I never read. For the visits I never made. For the mother I never was. Michael arrived at my house at sunset. He walked in without knocking. Jessica was with him. Both had serious, tired faces. They found me sitting in the living room, my eyes swollen, my hands trembling in my lap. We saw him, Michael said. He didn't sit. He stood in front of me like a judge reading a sentence. We saw Arthur. We talked to him. And you know what the worst part is? Mom? He still asks for you. After 40 years of abandonment, after all the unanswered letters, he still asks if you're going to come see him someday. Jessica crossed her arms. He has a small room, painted cream, with a window that overlooks the garden. He says he likes to watch the birds, that they're the only thing that makes him feel free, because he has never been free. Eleanor, he never left that place. He never had a chance to live. She looked at me with contempt. And all because you decided it was easier to hide him than to love him. I didn't know, I started to say, but Michael held up his hand. No. Don't say you didn't know. You knew perfectly well. You had the address, you had the phone number, you could have visited him at any time, but you chose not to. You chose to pretend he didn't exist, and now you want us to feel sorry for you. He shook his head. It doesn't work like that. Mom, you can't cry 40 years later and expect that to fix everything. I stood up on shaky legs. What? What do you want me to do? Michael looked at me intently. I want you to go see him. Tomorrow. With me. I want you to face what you did. I want you to apologize to him. And after that, I'm going to do everything I can to get him out of there, to give him the life he should have had from the beginning. I nodded slowly. I had no choice. I had no right to refuse. All right, I whispered. I'll go. That night was the longest of my life. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, imagining the moment I would have to face Arthur. What would I say to him? How could I look the son I abandoned in the eyes? What words could erase 40 years of absence? None. I knew that. But I still had to try. Because Michael was right. Because the time had come to stop running, to stop hiding behind excuses and lies, to face the monster I had been. At 7 o'clock in the morning, Michael knocked on the door. He came alone. Jessica stayed home, he said. She didn't want to witness what's about to happen. I didn't blame her. I didn't want to be there either. I got in the car without a word. Michael drove in silence. The radio was off. Only the sound of the engine and my own ragged breathing filled the car. I looked out the window. The trees passed by quickly. The houses. The signs. Everything seemed unreal, like I was living a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The St. Jude Center appeared after a 30-minute drive. It was a 3-story building, sand-colored walls, windows with white grates, well-kept gardens. At first glance, it looked like a peaceful place. Almost pleasant, but I knew the truth. I knew that behind those walls were forgotten people. Abandoned. Like Arthur. Michael parked the car. He turned off the engine. He turned to me. Listen to me, Mom. You are going to go in there. You are going to see Arthur. And you are going to be honest with him. No excuses, no justifications. If you can't do that, you'd better stay in the car. I nodded, voiceless. We got out. We walked toward the entrance. A nurse greeted us with a professional smile. Good morning. You must be Arthur Vance's family. Family. The word hit me like a punch to the stomach. Were we his family? After everything we did? After everything we didn't do? Yes, Michael replied. We're here to see him. The nurse nodded. Follow me, please. Arthur is in the garden. He likes to spend his mornings there. We walked through long corridors. It smelled of disinfectant and institutional food. The walls were painted in light colors. There were paintings of landscapes, fake flowers and vases, everything designed to look cozy, but it wasn't. It was a place where people went to be forgotten, to slowly disappear, to become shadows of what they once were. We went out to the garden. It was large. There were wooden benches, leafy trees, a small pond with fish, and there, sitting on a bench near the pond, was him. Arthur, my son. I recognized him instantly, despite the years. His hair was gray, thinner than when he was a teenager. He was wearing a beige shirt and denim pants. He was staring at the water, motionless, as if time didn't exist for him. Michael approached first. Hi, Arthur. He looked up. He smiled. A soft, childlike smile. Hi, Michael. You came back. His voice was calm. No resentment, no anger, and that, somehow, was worse. Because it meant he had accepted his fate. That he had stopped fighting a long time ago. Michael sat next to him. He motioned for me to come closer. I walked slowly. Each step felt heavy, as if I were carrying stones on my feet. Arthur looked at me. His eyes were the same color as mine. Honey-colored. My mother's eyes. Hello, I said, my voice trembling. He tilted his head. You are my mom. The question pierced me like a spear. He didn't recognize me. 40 years. 40 years without seeing me, and now he didn't know who I was. Yes, I replied, sitting on the bench opposite him. "I am your mom." Arthur nodded slowly. "Michael told me you would come, but I wasn't sure, because you never come." He said it without rancor, like someone commenting on the weather. As a simple, irrefutable fact. "I know," I whispered. "And I am so sorry." He looked back at the pond. "The fish are orange. Do you see them? I like the fish. They don't make noise. They don't bother anyone. They just swim." There was something in the way he spoke, something slow, paused, as if each word required immense effort. "Arthur," I said, trying to find the right words, "I want to ask for your forgiveness." He looked at me with curiosity. "Forgiveness for what?" I swallowed. "For not being here. For not visiting you. For leaving you alone for so long." Arthur tilted his head to the side. "But I'm not alone. There are doctors here. And nurses. And other people. Sarah comes sometimes. She's a nurse. She brings me cookies on Fridays." "Will you bring me cookies?" The innocence in his question destroyed me. "Yes," I replied, tears falling down my cheeks. "I'll bring you cookies. And anything else you want," Michael intervened. "Arthur, we want you to get out of here. We want you to come live with us." Arthur frowned. "Leave? But I live here. I've always lived here." He turned to me. "Mom brought me here when I was sad. She said they would make me better here. And now I'm better. The doctors say I don't cry as much as I used to." My heart shattered. "You cried a lot?" I asked. He nodded. "Yes, the first few years. I cried because I missed my house, my room, my drawings. And you. But then I stopped crying, because crying didn't make you come back. I couldn't take it anymore. I got up from the bench and walked a few steps. I needed air. I needed to scream. I needed the earth to swallow me." Michael approached me. "Now you understand," he said in a low voice. "You understand what you did to him, what you did to all of us." I looked at him. "How can we fix this? How can I make it up to him?" Michael shook his head. "You can't. There's no way to make up for 40 years. But you can start by getting him out of here, by giving him a chance to live outside, to know the world, to be free." I went back to Arthur. I sat beside him. I took his hand. It was cold. "Arthur, my love, I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. I brought you here because I thought it was for the best. But I was wrong. And now I want to take you home. I want you to know your brother. I want us to have a real family." He looked at me with confused eyes. "Can I take my things? I have a new drawing. I made it last week. It's of a tree like the ones here." I nodded, crying. "Yes, you can take anything you want." The nurse who had greeted us approached. "Mrs. Vance, if you want to start the process for Arthur to be discharged, we need to speak with the director. There are papers to sign, evaluations to be done. It's not something that can be done from one day to the next." Michael stood up. "We'll do whatever is necessary, whatever it takes. But my brother is getting out of here." The nurse nodded. "I understand. Come with me, please." We followed the nurse back into the building. Arthur stayed in the garden. Before going inside, I turned to look at him. He was watching the fish again. Still, calm, oblivious to the fact that his life was about to change, that 40 years of confinement might be coming to an end. And I wondered if I would truly be able to give him what he deserved. If after so much damage, there was still a way to repair even a small fraction of what I had broken. The director's office was on the second floor. It was small, tidy. There were framed diplomas on the walls and a green-leafed plant in the corner. The director was a woman in her 50s, brown hair pulled back in a bun, thin glasses, a serious but not hostile expression. She invited us to sit. Michael and I took the chairs in front of her desk. She opened a thick folder. "Arthur Vance's file," she said. "Admitted on March 15th, 1985. He was 16 years old. Initial diagnosis, severe depression and anxiety disorder." She paused. She looked at me over her glasses. "During the first 5 years, Arthur showed significant signs of improvement with therapy and medication. Psychiatrists recommended several times that he return to the family environment with outpatient follow-up. However, those recommendations were never attended. There was no response from his guardians. Every word was a slap. Michael clenched his fists on his legs. I looked down. I couldn't meet that woman's gaze. I couldn't face the truth she was reading in a neutral voice. After the first 10 years, the director continued. Arthur stopped asking for his family. He stopped writing letters. He adapted to the center's routine. He participated in art workshops. He helped in the garden. He became one of our most cooperative and stable residents. She closed the folder. But he never should have stayed here this long. Arthur poses no danger to himself or others. He doesn't have violent episodes. He doesn't require constant supervision. He could have lived on the outside with adequate support. Decades ago. Michael leaned forward. What do we need to do to get him out of here? What paperwork? How long will it take? The director steepled her hands on the desk. First, we need an updated psychiatric evaluation. That will take about 1 week. Then, we need a re-entry plan. Where will Arthur live? Who will be his legal guardian? Does he have medical insurance? There's a space prepared for him. Michael nodded. He will live with me, with my wife and me. I will be his guardian. And yes, he has insurance. I'll take care of everything. The director seemed satisfied with the answer. Good. I also recommend that Arthur have therapy sessions to prepare him psychologically for the transition. He has been here for 40 years. The world outside has changed a lot. He needs time to adapt. We can't just pull him out one day without preparation. She turned to me. And you, Mrs. Vance? What will your role be in all of this? I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. My role? What role could I have after what I had done? Michael answered for me. She will visit Arthur. She will rebuild the relationship she destroyed, and she will help in whatever way is necessary. He said it firmly. No room for negotiation. The director nodded. I understand. We will proceed with the evaluations then. You can visit him every day if you wish. In fact, I recommend it. Arthur needs to get used to seeing you, to trust that this time you won't disappear. That last phrase was like a knife twisting in an open wound. Because she was right. I had disappeared. And Arthur had every right not to believe that this time would be different. We left the office. We went down the stairs in silence. We returned to the garden. Arthur was still on the same bench. This time, a nurse was sitting next to him. She was young, about 30, black hair, a kind smile. You must be Arthur's family, she said, standing up. I'm Sarah. I've worked here for 5 years. Arthur is one of my favorite patients. He's very sweet. Michael shook her hand. Thank you for taking care of him. Sarah nodded. It's my job. But with Arthur, it's easy. He never complains. He's always grateful, even for the smallest things. I approached Arthur. He was drawing in a notebook. Simple lines. A tree, a bird. Can I see your drawing? I asked. He held up the notebook. It's not finished yet. But this is the tree over there. He pointed to a large oak tree on the other side of the garden. It has a lot of leaves. It's hard to draw all of them. But I try. I looked at the drawing. It was beautiful. Not perfect, but full of care, of patience, of love for the details. It's lovely, I said. You were always good at drawing. Arthur looked at me, surprised. You knew I liked to draw? I nodded. The tears blurred my vision again. Yes, when you were a boy, you filled entire notebooks with drawings, trees, houses, animals. Your father and I used to hang them on the refrigerator. He smiled, a small, shy smile. I don't remember that. He closed the notebook. Do you draw too, Mom? I shook my head. No, but I'd like you to teach me. If you want. Arthur nodded. Okay, I can teach you. It's easy when you practice a lot. Michael sat on the other side of Arthur. Brother, there's something I want to tell you. We're going to get you out of here. You're going to come live with me. You'll have your own room. You can draw all you want. Go to the park. See the city. Do things you've never done. Arthur tilted his head. For how long? Michael frowned. What do you mean? Arthur looked down. For how long can I be outside? Then I have to come back here. The question broke my heart. Michael took his hand. No, Arthur. It's for forever. You're going to live with me. You're not coming back here ever again. Unless you want to. Arthur processed the information in silence. Then he looked at Sarah. Is it true? I can leave forever? Sarah nodded, her eyes shining. Yes, Arthur, it's true. Your family came for you. You're going to have a new life. Arthur looked at his drawing again. And my things? Can I take my drawings? I have a lot. In boxes. In my room. Michael smiled. You can take anything you want. Everything. Arthur nodded slowly. Okay then. I'll go with you. We spent the rest of the afternoon with him. Michael told him about his house, about Jessica, about the things they would do together. Arthur listened intently. He asked simple questions. Are there trees near your house? Can I have my own notebook? Is Jessica nice? Every question revealed how small his world had become, how limited his expectations were. And I blamed myself more with every word that came out of his mouth. Because I was the one who robbed him of the possibility of dreaming big, of wanting more, of expecting a full life. When it was time to leave, Arthur walked us to the main door. Will you come back tomorrow? He asked, anxiety in his voice. Michael hugged his brother. Yes, we'll be back tomorrow, and the day after. And every day until you can come with us. Arthur looked relieved. Then he looked at me. You'll come back too, Mom? I swallowed the lump in my throat. Yes, my love. I'll be back too. I promise. He smiled. Okay, I'll wait for you then. And he turned to go back to the garden. Sarah walked with him. We watched them walk away, two figures moving slowly among the trees. One of them, my son, the son I abandoned, the son who was now giving me a second chance I didn't deserve. In the car on the way back, Michael said nothing. He drove with his jaw tight, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. I looked out the window. The tears fell silently. I didn't bother to wipe them away. After 30 minutes, Michael spoke. I'm going to do everything I can to give Arthur the life he deserves. But I need you to understand something. Mom, what you did is unforgivable. You can spend the rest of your life trying to make up for it, but it will never be enough. Never. I nodded. I know, he sighed. But Arthur is giving you a chance. I don't know why. I don't know how he can be so generous after everything. But he is. So don't waste it. Don't fail us again. I won't, I whispered. This time, I won't. Michael didn't reply, and I just stared at the road ahead, thinking about the promises I had broken, the letters I never answered, the years I stole, and the small, almost impossible chance that I could, somehow, begin to repair the irreparable damage I had caused. Even if it was too late. Even if I had no right. Even if I didn't deserve the forgiveness Arthur seemed willing to give. Because sometimes, love doesn't come when we deserve it. It comes when we are willing to receive it. And Arthur, after 40 years of waiting, was still willing to love. Even a mother who never knew how to love him back. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions. Every morning, Michael would pick me up early. We would go to the St. Jude Center together. We sat with Arthur in the garden. We brought him things. Cookies, magazines, new colored pencils. He received each gift as if it were a treasure. His eyes would light up. His hands would tremble with excitement. And every time he opened something, he would say thank you as if it were the first word he learned. As if gratitude was the only thing he had left after so much neglect. Jessica came with us on the third day. She brought a camera. I want to take pictures, she said. I want Arthur to have memories of this moment. Of when his new life began, Arthur posed shyly for the photos. He didn't know how to smile naturally. His smiles were forced, mechanical, as if he had forgotten how to express genuine happiness. But Jessica was patient. She spoke to him gently. She told him stories about the house, about the room they were preparing for him, about the neighbors who wanted to meet him. And slowly, Arthur began to relax. To believe that this was real, that it wasn't a dream he would wake up from, only to find himself alone in his room at the center again. During one of those visits, Sarah took us to Arthur's room. It was small, cream-colored walls, a single bed, a desk with drawers full of notebooks, a closet with simple clothes, and boxes, Many boxes stacked against the wall. Those are his drawings, Sarah explained. Arthur never throws anything away. He keeps every drawing he makes. He says someday someone will want to see them. I opened one of the boxes. It was full of drawings on different sizes of paper. Trees, birds, faces, landscapes. All carefully dated in the top right corner. 40 years of art. 40 years of loneliness, captured in lines and shadows. Michael looked at the drawings too. He picked one up. It was a portrait of a woman. Long hair, big eyes, a soft smile. "Who is she?" he asked. Sarah looked at the drawing. "That's his mom. Arthur used to draw you a lot, especially in the first few years. He said if he drew you enough times, you would come visit." Michael looked at me. There was something in his eyes I couldn't decipher. Pity, rage, disappointment, maybe all of it combined. He put the drawing back in the box. "We're taking all of these boxes home, every single one." Sarah nodded. "Arthur will be so happy. He's always afraid someone will throw his things away." Arthur's psychiatric evaluation took 6 days. During that time, a team of doctors interviewed him. They ran tests. They observed his behavior. And in the end, they all reached the same conclusion. Arthur was completely fit to live outside the center. He posed no risk. His mental health was stable. He just needed regular therapeutic follow-up and family support. When the director gave us the results, Michael exhaled as if he had been holding his breath for years. "So he can leave," he said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. The director smiled. "Yes, he can leave. We just need you to sign the guardianship papers and we can proceed with the discharge." We signed everything that afternoon. Michael as the legal guardian, me as the mother. My hand was shaking so much as I signed that the signature was barely legible. But there it was. My name on a document that formalized my return to Arthur's life. A late return. Tainted. Insufficient. But a return nonetheless. The director gave us copies of everything. "The official discharge will be the day after tomorrow," she said. "I recommend you come early. Arthur will be anxious, and you'll want to help him pack." That night, Jessica organized a dinner at their house. Michael, her, and me. "We need to talk about how this is all going to work," Jessica said, serving the food. "Arthur is going to need structure, clear routines, and a lot of patience. We can't expect him to adapt immediately. He's been institutionalized for 40 years. The world outside is going to seem overwhelming." Michael nodded. "I've already hired a therapist who specializes in re-entry. She'll come 3 times a week. I also spoke with a doctor for his medical follow-up, and we're finishing setting up his room." I turned to Michael. "Can I see the room?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Come on." We went up to the 2nd floor. At the end of the hall, a door was open. We went in. It was a spacious room. Walls painted light green, a large bed with a white comforter, a wide desk near the window, empty shelves waiting to be filled with Arthur's drawings, and on the wall, a framed picture. It was one of the drawings we had found in the boxes. A tree, large, leafy, with deep roots. "I thought it would be good to put one of his drawings here," Michael said, "so he feels like this space is truly his." I looked at the frame. The tears started falling again. "It's perfect," I whispered. "Everything is perfect." Michael put a hand on my shoulder. "Mom, I know you want to be part of this. And Arthur wants you to be. But I need you to understand something. If you ever hurt him again, if you disappear again, if you make him feel like he doesn't matter, I will personally make sure you never see him again. Understood?" I nodded. Understood. The day of the discharge arrived. We went early, as the director suggested. Arthur was waiting for us at the entrance with 2 small suitcases. Sarah was by his side. She had been crying. "It's hard to say goodbye," she said, wiping her tears. "I've taken care of Arthur for 5 years. It feels like saying goodbye to a friend." Arthur gave her an awkward hug. "Thank you for the cookies, Sarah, and for talking to me when I was sad." She hugged him back. "Take care of yourself, Arthur, and remember you can always call me if you need anything." We loaded the suitcases into the car. Then we went back to Arthur's room for the boxes of drawings. There were 16 in total. We carried them between the three of us. We arranged them in the trunk and the back seat. Arthur watched everything in silence. His eyes scanned the building, the gardens, the windows, as if he were memorizing every detail. "Are you okay?" Jessica asked. Arthur nodded. "Yes, I'm just saying goodbye. I lived here a long time. It was my home, but now I have a new home. With you?" Before we left, the director came out to see us off. "Arthur, I wish you the best. You've been an exemplary resident. I'm sure you'll do very well on the outside." Arthur shook her hand. "Thank you for everything, Doctor." She smiled. Then she looked at me. "Mrs. Vance, take care of your son. Give him the love he deserves. It's never too late to start over." I nodded, unable to speak. The words were stuck in my throat, because I knew she was right. But I also knew that some things, even if started over, are never the same. The scar always remains. The memory of what was lost always remains. Arthur got into the car. He sat in the back seat next to some of the boxes. He fastened his seatbelt. He looked out the window. Michael started the engine, and we began to drive away from the St. Jude's Center. Arthur didn't stop looking back until the building completely disappeared. Then he turned to face forward. "Is your house far, Michael?" he asked. "Not too far, about 40 minutes. Arthur nodded. "Okay, I can wait 40 minutes. And he remained silent for the rest of the drive, looking at everything. The cars, the buildings, the people walking on the streets. The world that had been outside his reach for 40 years. The world that was finally, after so long, his again. When we arrived at Michael's house, Jessica opened the front door. "Welcome home, Arthur." He got out of the car slowly. He looked at the facade, the small front yard, the front steps. "It's nice," he said. "It has flowers." We went inside. Arthur stood in the living room. His eyes scanned everything. The furniture, the photographs on the walls, the television. "There are a lot of things here," he commented. "There weren't this many things at the center." Michael smiled. "You can touch whatever you want. This is your home now, too." Arthur nodded but didn't move, as if he was afraid of breaking something, of not really belonging. Jessica took him to his room. She opened the door. Arthur entered with slow steps. He looked at the bed, the desk, the shelves, and then he saw the picture on the wall. His drawing, the tree. He approached it. He ran his fingers over the frame. "It's mine," he whispered. "I made this." Michael came in behind him. "Yes, it's yours. And this room is yours too. It's all yours." Arthur turned. He had tears in his eyes. "Can I really stay here? It's not just for a few days?" Michael hugged his brother. "It's for forever, Arthur. I promise you. For forever." Arthur's first few days in his new home were difficult. He didn't know how to use many things. The television remote confused him. The microwave scared him. The shower with multiple knobs overwhelmed him. Jessica had to teach him everything step by step, with infinite patience, as if she were teaching a child. And in a way, he was. Because Arthur had stopped learning about the world at 16. Everything that came after was institutional experience, rigid routines, controlled spaces, limited options. Now he had to learn to live, to choose, to be free. And that was terrifying. The first night, Arthur couldn't sleep. At 3 o'clock in the morning, Michael found him sitting in the living room. The lights were off. He was looking out the window. "What's wrong, brother?" Michael asked, turning on a lamp. Arthur startled. "I can't sleep. There are too many noises. Cars, dogs barking." At the center, everything was quiet after 9. Michael sat next to him. "I understand. It's different, but you'll get used to it. Do you want me to put on some soft music? Sometimes that helps." Arthur shook his head. "No, I just want to know this is real. That tomorrow I'm not going to wake up in my room at the center." Michael put a hand on his brother's shoulder. "It's real, Arthur. And you're going to wake up here, in your home, with us." Arthur nodded slowly. "Okay, I think I'll try to sleep again. He stood up. He walked toward his room. But before going in, he stopped. "Michael," he said without turning around. "Thank you for coming to get me. I had already stopped waiting for anyone to." And he closed the door. Michael stood in the hallway, his hands in his pockets, his heart broken for his brother, and furious with me for having caused so much pain. I visited the house every other day. I brought food. I helped with whatever I could. But there was a distance between Arthur and me. He was polite. He always said thank you, Mom, when I brought him something. He always smiled when I arrived. But he didn't talk much to me. He didn't seek me out. He didn't ask me questions. It was as if I were a polite visitor instead of his mother. And maybe he was right to treat me that way. Because I had been an absent visitor for 40 years. I deserved nothing more. One day, while Jessica was making lunch, I sat with Arthur in the living room. He was drawing. He was always drawing. "What are you making?" I asked. He held up the notebook. "It's Michael's backyard. It has 3 trees and purple flowers. I want to draw it so I remember it." I moved a little closer. "Can I sit here? Am I bothering you?" Arthur shook his head. "You're not bothering me." We sat in silence for a while. I watched him draw. His hands moved with precision, with care. Every line had a purpose. "Arthur," I said finally, "I know I can never repair what I did to you. I know no apology is enough. But I want you to know that I think about you every day, and I regret it every day." He stopped drawing. He looked at me. "Why didn't you come visit me, Mom? Did I do something bad?" The question shattered me. "No, my love, you did nothing wrong. You never did anything wrong. It was me. I was afraid. Afraid I wouldn't know how to help you. Afraid people would find out my son was in a place like that, and I chose to hide you instead of loving you. And that was unforgivable." Arthur went back to his drawing. "I missed you a lot. The first few years, I cried every night. I thought maybe you were sick, or that you had died, because I didn't understand why you didn't come. Then, after many years passed, I understood that you just didn't want to come. And that hurt more." His words were like knives. "But I deserved them. Everyone." "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry." Arthur nodded. "I'm sorry too, Mom. I'm sorry I wasn't the son you wanted. The son who didn't give you problems. Like Michael." "No," I said, taking his hand. "Don't say that. You are exactly the son I should have loved. The son who deserved all my love. And I failed. I failed you. But if you give me the chance, I want to try to be the mother I should have been from the beginning." Arthur looked at me with those honey-colored eyes. My mother's eyes. The eyes I had inherited and passed on to him. "Okay," he said. "You can try." And he went back to drawing. As if that conversation hadn't both broken and rebuilt something between us at the same time. Arthur's therapist came for the first time a week after his arrival. Her name was Dr. Evans. She was a woman in her 40s. Short hair. A calm voice. She had worked with many re-entry cases. "Arthur is going to need time," she explained to us after her first session with him. "He has developed very strong survival mechanisms. He adapted to confinement because he had no other choice. Now he needs to unlearn those mechanisms and learn to live without restrictions. And that can be terrifying for him." "Is there anything we can do to help?" Michael asked. Dr. Evans nodded. "Yes. Maintain simple but flexible routines. Give him choices, but not too many. Accompany him on his first trips outside. The grocery store, the park, places where he can get used to people and noise. And above all, be patient. Progress will be slow. There will be setbacks, but they will come." She gave us a list of recommendations. Breathing exercises for anxiety, activities to strengthen his autonomy, ways to help him without overprotecting him. Michael took Arthur to the park for the first time 2 weeks after his arrival. I went with them. Arthur walked slowly, looking at everything. There were children playing, dogs running, people exercising. "There are a lot of people," he commented. "Are there always this many people outside?" Michael smiled. "Yes, the world is full of people, but you don't have to talk to anyone if you don't want to. Just walk, observe, enjoy." Arthur nodded. We sat on a bench near a small lake. There were ducks swimming. Arthur watched them, fascinated. "Can I feed them?" he asked. "Of course," Michael replied, pulling some bread from his backpack. Arthur went to the water's edge. He threw small pieces of bread. The ducks swam over. He smiled, a genuine smile, the first one I had seen since he left the center. "They're funny," he said. "I like ducks. They're like the fish. Quiet." He stayed there for a long time, feeding the ducks, laughing when one of them splashed in the water. And I watched him, watching my 62-year-old son discover things he should have discovered when he was 6. On the way home, Arthur was more relaxed. He even talked a little about what he had seen. "The park is big, bigger than the garden at the center, and it has a lake. I'd like to go back tomorrow." Michael nodded. "We can go back whenever you want. It's a public place. It's yours as much as it is anyone else's." Arthur processed that information. "Mine," he repeated. "I've never had something that was mine and other people's at the same time." I felt a lump in my throat, because that sentence summarized everything. Arthur had never had a sense of belonging. He had never felt like the world was his, too, and I was responsible for that. That night at dinner, Arthur asked a question. "Michael, how old am I?" Michael put down his fork. "You're 62, Arthur." "Why do you ask?" Arthur looked down. "Because I feel like I'm 16. Like all this time didn't pass. Like I just got to the center yesterday." He touched his face. "But I have wrinkles, and my hair is gray. So I know a long time passed. But I don't feel it." Jessica leaned toward him. "That's normal, Arthur. You lost a lot of years. But now you have the rest of your life to live. To reclaim what you lost." Arthur nodded. "I want to learn things. I want to know how the world works. I want to do things I never did." Michael smiled. "We'll make a list of everything you want to do, and we'll do it. One by one." That night, after Arthur went to sleep, Michael and Jessica sat with me in the living room. "He's getting better," Jessica said. "Every day he's a little more comfortable, a little more confident." Michael nodded. "Yes, but there's still a long way to go, and we need to be prepared for when he really starts to process what he lost. When he realizes everything he didn't get to live, that's when he's going to need us most." I looked at my son, at Michael, the son who was always with me, the son I never abandoned. "Thank you," I said. "Thank you for doing this for your brother, for giving him a life, for being a better person than I ever was." Michael looked at me. "I'm not doing it for you, Mom. I'm doing it for him. Because Arthur deserves to be happy. He deserves to have a family, and I'm going to make sure he has one." I nodded, because he was right. This was never about me. It was about Arthur, and about giving him what he should have had from the very beginning. Love, family, a place to belong. 1 month after Arthur left the center, Michael organized a small family gathering. Just the 4 of us. He wanted Arthur to feel like he had people, that he wasn't alone. We prepared food together. Jessica made lasagna. I brought salad and bread. Arthur helped set the table. He counted the plates carefully. 1, 2, 3, 4. "There are 4 of us," he said, smiling. "A family of 4. Michael ruffled his hair. "That's right, brother. There are 4 of us." During dinner, Michael pulled out a small box. "Arthur, I have something for you." Arthur looked at the box curiously. "What is it?" Michael handed it to him. "Open it." Arthur opened it slowly. Inside was a cell phone. New. Simple. With large buttons. "It's so you can call us whenever you want. So you know we're always here, even if we're not physically with you." Arthur took the phone out. He turned it over in his hands. "I've never had a phone. They didn't let us at the center." Michael nodded. "I know, but you can have one now. I already saved my number and Jessica's, and Mom's too." Arthur looked at me. "I can call you Mom?" I nodded, my throat tight. "Yes, my love. You can call me whenever you want, any time at all." Arthur carefully put the phone in his shirt pocket. "Thank you. I'll take good care of it." We finished dinner. Jessica brought dessert, chocolate cake. Arthur ate slowly, savoring every bite. "This is good," he said. At the center, we only had cake on special occasions. Like birthdays. Michael paused. Brother, when is your birthday? Arthur thought for a moment. April 12th. My birthday is in April. That's in 3 weeks, Jessica said, looking at the calendar on her phone. We have to celebrate. Arthur shook his head. You don't need to do anything special. I'm not used to celebrations. Michael leaned forward. That's exactly why we have to celebrate. Because we never did before. Because you have 63 years of birthdays to make up for. Arthur smiled shyly. You really want to celebrate my birthday? Michael nodded. Of course I do. You're my brother. And your birthday is important. The next few weeks were a flurry of preparation. Jessica bought decorations. Silver and white balloons. Streamers. Michael ordered a cake from an expensive bakery. 3 tiers. With strawberries and cream. I offered to cook. To make Arthur's favorite dishes. Though I was still discovering what those were. Because I didn't know what he liked. I didn't know his preferences. I had spent 40 years not knowing anything about him. And now I had to learn everything from scratch. As if I had just met him. Because in a way, I had. The day of the birthday arrived. Michael and Jessica decorated the living room while Arthur slept. They hung the balloons. They set the table with a white tablecloth. Fresh flowers in the center. When Arthur came down for breakfast, he froze on the stairs. What is all this? Michael smiled. It's your birthday party, brother. Happy 63rd. Arthur came down slowly. He touched the balloons, the streamers, as if he couldn't believe they were real. This is all for me? Jessica hugged him. Yes, all for you. I arrived at noon with the food. Arthur met me at the door. Mom, look, there are balloons, and a sign that says, Happy birthday, Arthur. Michael made it. His eyes were shining, like a child's. And I realized this was probably the first real birthday party he'd had since he was 16. Since before I sent him to that place. It's beautiful, I said, forcing a smile. Because inside, I was breaking. Thinking of all the birthdays he missed. All the candles he never blew out. All the parties he never had. We ate together. We laughed. Michael told stories from when he was a kid. Stories that included Arthur. Remember when we tried to build a fort in the backyard with sheets, and it fell on top of us? Arthur frowned. I don't remember that. Michael looked surprised. You don't? We were like 7 and 9. We got trapped under the sheets screaming for help until Dad came to rescue us. Arthur shook his head. I don't remember much from when I was a kid. It's like those memories were erased. Dr. Evans, the therapist, had warned us about this. Arthur's memory had been affected by the trauma and prolonged confinement. Many of his childhood memories were blocked, fragmented. That's okay, Michael said. I'll tell you all the stories I remember. And we'll make new memories together. Arthur nodded. I'd like that. After lunch, Jessica brought out the cake, with 63 candles lit. Arthur looked at the flames. That's a lot of candles, Michael laughed. Yep, 1 for every year. But you don't have to blow them all out at once. We can help. Arthur closed his eyes. We all sang, Happy birthday. Happy birthday, dear Arthur. When we finished, he blew out the candles. It took him 3 tries to get them all. But he did it. We applauded. He smiled. That genuine smile that only appeared in special moments. I've never had so many candles on a cake, he said. It's nice. We cut the cake. Arthur tried the first piece. This is delicious. Better than any cake from the center. And he kept eating with a happiness so pure it made me cry. After the cake, Michael brought out presents. A large box wrapped in shiny paper. Arthur opened it carefully, trying not to tear the paper. Inside was a complete set of art supplies, professional colored pencils, watercolors, brushes, papers of different textures, canvases, everything an artist could need. Arthur took out each item with reverence. This must have cost a lot of money, he whispered. Michael put a hand on his shoulder. It doesn't matter how much it cost. You deserve to have the best tools for your art. Jessica gave him another gift. A book. Advanced Drawing Techniques. Arthur read the title. He opened the book. He flipped through the pages full of illustrations and explanations. I can learn new things with this. Jessica nodded. You can. And if you need help, we can look for art classes for you, so you can learn with a teacher. Arthur looked up. Really? I could take classes? Michael nodded. Of course. You can do whatever you want, brother. The world is yours now. I gave him my gift last. It was smaller. A velvet box. Arthur opened it. Inside was a watch. It wasn't new. It was old, with a worn leather strap, a gold face. This watch belonged to your grandfather, I explained. My father. He gave it to me before he died. And I always wanted to give it to my sons. I gave one to Michael when he turned 18, and this one was for you. I should have given it to you 45 years ago, but I'm giving it to you now, because it's never too late to give you what belongs to you. Arthur took out the watch. He held it carefully. It works. I nodded. Yes. I had it repaired last week. It works perfectly. Arthur put it on his wrist. It was a little big. I like it. It reminds me that time keeps moving, that now I have time to live. His words cut through me. Because he was right. Time had passed. Too much time. And we couldn't get it back. But we could start new. We could give him the years he had left. Fill them with love, with family, with everything he should have always had. That night, after we cleaned up, Arthur sat on the sofa with all his gifts around him. This was the best birthday of my life, he said. Michael sat next to him. It's going to be the first of many, brother, I promise. Arthur looked at his new watch. Michael, can I ask you something? Michael nodded. Of course, anything. Arthur hesitated. Then he spoke. Why didn't Mom visit me all those years? Was it because I was different? Because I had problems? The silence that followed was thick. Michael looked at me, waiting for me to answer. I sat down in front of Arthur. It wasn't because you were different, my love. It was because I was a coward. Because I was afraid to face what I had done. To admit I had failed as a mother. And instead of fixing my mistake, I ran. I abandoned you. And there's no justification for that. There's no forgiveness. But I want you to know that every single day of these 40 years, a part of me knew it was wrong. And that part ate me up inside, because I knew I had lost my son. And it was my fault. Arthur looked at me for a long time. Then he nodded. It's okay, Mom. I understand. Sometimes it's easier to run than to face hard things. I did it too. At the center, when things got hard, I would go inside my head. I would draw. I would dream. I escaped. So I understand. His forgiveness was so simple, so pure, so unearned, that I could only cry. Michael put his arms around both of us. We're a family, he said. Broken, complicated, but a family nonetheless. 3 months after Arthur's birthday, his life had changed in ways I never imagined possible. Michael kept his promise. He enrolled Arthur in art classes twice a week, a small workshop in the city, with a patient teacher who understood that Arthur was learning more than just drawing techniques. He was learning to trust, to socialize, to believe he deserved to be there. The first few days were hard. Arthur would come home exhausted, overwhelmed by the people, by the conversations, by having to share space with strangers. But slowly, he began to enjoy it. One afternoon, Arthur came home from his class with a different kind of smile. I talked to someone today, he announced. Her name is Lucy. She's 70 years old, and she likes to draw trees, too. She asked if I wanted to get coffee after class next week. Michael hugged him. That's wonderful, brother. You're going. Arthur nodded, excited. Yes, I think so. Lucy is nice. She doesn't ask hard questions. She just talks about trees and birds. I like talking to her. Watching Arthur make a friend was like watching a plant that had been in the dark for too long finally bloom. Slow, fragile, but beautiful. I continued to visit the house 3 times a week. Sometimes I brought food. Sometimes I just sat with Arthur while he drew. Little by little, we began to rebuild something. It wasn't the mother-son relationship we should have had. It never would be. But it was something. He would tell me about his classes, about Lucy, about the new drawings he was making, and I listened. I really listened. trying to reclaim 40 years of lost conversations in a few hours a week, knowing it would never be enough, but trying anyway. One day, Arthur asked me to take him to the St. Jude's Center. "I want to visit Sarah," he said. "I want her to see that I'm okay, that her effort was worth it." We went together. The drive felt endless. Returning to that place, seeing those walls, those gardens where Arthur had spent 40 years of his life. When we arrived, Sarah ran out to greet him. "Arthur, look at you. You look wonderful." She hugged him. Arthur showed her pictures on his phone. Pictures of his room, of his new drawings, of the park, of his art class. "I'm happy, Sarah," he said. "For the first time in a long time, I'm happy." Sarah cried as she looked at the photos. "I'm so happy for you, Arthur. You deserve it." Then she looked at me. Her expression changed. It became serious. "Mrs. Vance, I hope you understand the gift you have. Not everyone gets a second chance. Don't waste it." I nodded, unable to speak, because she was right. This was a gift I didn't deserve, but one I had received anyway. And my only responsibility now was to honor it, to not fail again, to not run again. When we got back home, Arthur was quiet in the car. "Are you okay?" I asked. He nodded. "Yes, I was just thinking. When I was at the center, I always dreamed of getting out, but I never thought it would actually happen. I thought I would die there, that I'd never meet Michael, that I'd never have a family again." He turned to me. "But now I have all of that. And even though I lost a lot of years, I have these years now. And that's something." His words broke me and healed me at the same time. Because Arthur had chosen forgiveness. He had chosen hope. And I had no right to that. But he gave it to me anyway. In June, 6 months after he left the center, Arthur had his first art exhibition. The workshop teacher organized a small show at a local gallery. He invited all his students to participate. Arthur chose 10 of his best drawings: trees, birds, faces, landscapes. We framed them together, Michael, Jessica, Arthur, and me, each of us holding a frame, working as a family. The night of the opening, Arthur was nervous. "What if nobody likes my drawings?" Michael put a hand on his shoulder. "They're going to love them. Because they're beautiful. And they're yours." The gallery was full of people, strangers looking at art, chatting, drinking wine. Arthur's drawings were on a wall at the back, with a small plaque that read, "Arthur Vance. Series. Freedom Found." People stopped. They looked. They read the descriptions. Some asked about the artist. Arthur hid behind us, shy. But when an older gentleman approached and told him, "Your trees have soul. I can feel the patience in every line," Arthur smiled. That smile that was appearing more often now. "Thank you," he replied. "I had a lot of time to practice." He sold 3 drawings that night. 3, for $200 each. Arthur couldn't believe it. "Someone paid money for my drawings." Michael laughed. "Yes, brother, because your art is valuable. You are valuable." Arthur put the money in his wallet carefully. "I'm going to save this, to buy something nice for Lucy. She's been very kind to me." That night, in the car on the way home, Arthur was quiet. But it was a different kind of silence. It wasn't the silence of fear or sadness. It was the silence of satisfaction, of having achieved something, of having been seen. The sessions with Dr. Evans continued all this time. In one of them, she called Michael and me in. "I want to talk to you about Arthur's progress," she said. We sat in her office. "Arthur has made incredible strides in these months. His adaptation has been better than I expected. But there's something important you need to know." She paused. "Arthur still carries the trauma of abandonment, and he probably always will. There are wounds that don't heal completely. You just learn to live with them." She looked at me directly. "Eleanor, Arthur has forgiven you. But forgiveness doesn't erase the pain. He needs you to understand that." I nodded. The tears started to fall. "I understand," Dr. Evans continued. "And Michael, you have done an extraordinary job with your brother, but you can't carry the full responsibility for his happiness. Arthur needs to learn to be independent, to not depend completely on you, because that would also be another form of prison. A more loving one, but a prison nonetheless. Michael processed her words. What do you suggest? Dr. Evans smiled. I'm suggesting you consider helping Arthur get his own space eventually. Not now, but in the future. A small apartment near you, where he can live on his own, but with support. That would be the next step in his independence. The idea scared us both, but it also made sense. Arthur needed to fly. He needed to feel he could stand on his own, that he wasn't a burden, that he was capable. We talked to him about it a few weeks later. We told him there was no rush, that he could stay with Michael as long as he wanted, but that if, someday, he wanted his own place, we would help him. Arthur looked at us, surprised. My own place? Like a normal adult? Michael nodded. Exactly like a normal adult. Because that's what you are, brother. An adult who deserves his own life. Arthur thought about it for several days. Finally, one night at dinner, he spoke. I think I'd like to try that. To have my own place, but close by, so I can visit you, and so you can visit me. Michael smiled, proud. Then we'll do it. We'll find the perfect place for you. And so, a new chapter began, looking for apartments. A small one, with good light for drawing, near the park, near the family. A place where Arthur could be truly free. We found the perfect place 3 months later. A one-bedroom apartment. 3rd floor. Big windows. 10 minutes from Michael's house. Arthur loved it from the moment he walked in. I can put my desk here, by the window, so I can see the trees while I draw. We furnished it together. Bed, sofa, table, shelves for his thousands of drawings. The day Arthur moved, we all helped. We carried boxes. We organized. And when everything was done, we sat in his new living room. This is my home, Arthur said, looking around. My own home. For the first time in 63 years, I have a place that is just mine. I hugged him. You deserve it, my love. You deserve this and so much more. Arthur hugged me back. Thanks, Mom, for coming back, for trying. I know it hasn't been easy for you either. And he was right. It hadn't been easy, living with the guilt, with the remorse, with the knowledge that I had stolen 40 years of my son's life. But I was here, trying, and Arthur had given me the chance. A chance I never deserved, but that he gave me anyway. 6 months after Arthur moved into his apartment, I visited him one afternoon. I knocked on the door. He opened it with a smile. Hi, Mom. Come on in. I entered. His apartment smelled of coffee and paint. He had new drawings hanging on the walls. Want some coffee? He asked. I nodded. We sat in his small living room. Mom, he said after a while, I want you to know something. I'm happy. Really. I have my art. I have friends. I have Michael and Jessica. And I have you. Not in the way I should have, but I have you now, and that counts. I cried, as I always did when Arthur showed me a grace I didn't deserve. I love you, Arthur. I always loved you. Even when I didn't show it, even when I abandoned you, you were always in my heart. He nodded. I know, Mom. And I love you too, because you're my mom. And love is complicated sometimes, but it's still love. We sat there, drinking coffee, talking about everything and nothing, about his classes, about his plans, about the life he was finally living. As I was leaving, I turned at the door. Arthur, I said, thank you for forgiving me this chance. He smiled. Mom, everyone deserves second chances. You taught me that, even if not in the way you planned. I closed the door. I walked down the stairs, and for the first time in 40 years, I felt something close to peace. It wasn't complete happiness. It never would be, because the past isn't erased. The wounds don't disappear, but I could live with them. I could carry the weight of what I did, and I could try every day to be a little better for Arthur, for Michael, for the broken family we had rebuilt with imperfect but real pieces, because I learned something in all this painful process. Love without responsibility is abandonment. Love without action is just empty words. And love that hides instead of confronting destroys. But I also learned that it's never too late to start over, to ask for forgiveness, to try, even if redemption doesn't erase the damage, even if regret doesn't bring back the lost time. Because in the end, all we have is today, and what we do with the chances that life, against all odds, decides to give us.